you frustrated with your work? If you answered yes, you're not alone. Statistics tell us that more than 70% of people are frustrated with their work, and many of those are looking to change jobs. So if that's you, looking forward to doing the type of work, or you're financially frustrated. Maybe you're good at what you do, but financially it is not providing what you need or what you're actually worth. And it's hard to find work that actually will do both. Fulfill you personally and from a purpose standpoint, but also support you financially at the level that you need to be supported and at the level really that you're worth. In Purposenomics, the quest for meaningful and profitable work, I unpack purpose-driven work, holistic growth, community and collaboration, and legacy principles. You don't have to be frustrated, so you don't have to be angry. You don't have to be upset about, yes. Are you frustrated with your work? If you answered yes, you're not alone. Statistics tell us that more than 70% of people are frustrated with their work, and many of those are looking to change jobs. So if that's you, looking forward to doing the type of work, or you're financially frustrated. Maybe you're good at what you do, but financially it is not providing what you need or what you're actually worth. And it's hard to find work that actually will do both. Fulfill you personally and from a purpose standpoint, but also support you financially at the level that you need to be supported and at the level really that you're worth. In Purposenomics, the quest for meaningful and profitable work, I unpack purpose-driven work, holistic growth, community and collaboration, and legacy principles. You don't have to be frustrated, so you don't have to be angry. You don't have to be upset about, yes, I love my. All right, well, welcome everyone. Hopefully you all are having a great evening and doing well. Like there was a little bit of glitch in the matrix at the end of that video, but that's all good. I think you got the point. So I'm Paul Wilson Jr. I'm excited to be with you tonight and to share with you on this particular webinar, the fulfillment formula for purposeful work, right? And I think for many of us, right, in this process, what you really have to look at and really understand is the frustration, right, that many people feel in the workplace, that many people feel even as entrepreneurs, maybe not building and growing and developing like you would want to, right, and not really profiting, right? So let's talk about profit, right? And the ability to really generate enough income for your family and even beyond that, right? There's a tension there, right? If we're honest. And so the goal is, how do we break through that tension, right? And really become all that we were meant to be, and not just in this kind of, flowery kind of way. I just want to be all that I'm meant to be. But no, you're living on purpose. You're doing and becoming who God created you to be. And you're making the impact that you're supposed to be making, but also you're fulfilled financially in that process. And so let's jump in here. I'm excited to just kind of share some insights with you on tonight that hopefully will just move you forward, right, in terms of your career. So first, let's give me a little bit. I'll give you a little bit of background of myself. For those, again, who may be brand new to who I am and what I do, but also those who may have been familiar with me, but I'm hopefully may share a little bit more details on tonight. So I've been in this kind of world of entrepreneurship, developing programs, building entrepreneurs, consulting with entrepreneurs, strengthening them, helping them build scale and capacity, probably for over 20 years, right? So I've been in this space and kind of doing this for a long time, which of course, length of time doesn't automatically mean that you've gained expertise, but hopefully I can demonstrate that there is some level of expertise that I have gained through my experiences. 10 plus years as an entrepreneur. Again, those who met me recently may be more familiar with the work I've done, more so with local organizations and nonprofits from that standpoint, with Georgia State, the Russell Center, and Urban League. However, prior to that, I had been an entrepreneur probably for close to 10 years from that standpoint. So running a management consulting firm that had national reach and worked with a lot of different Fortune 500 companies from that standpoint. And so a lot of my experiences I was able to take into entrepreneurship or coaching entrepreneurs, right, was from also my own experiences, but also working with different organizations. Again, being also a 3-time published author. So of course I'm excited. My most recent book, Purposenomics, is out and available, but also being a business professor. I'm an ordained minister. Many of you may or may not have known that. And of course, I'm a husband and father of 4. And so again, a lot of us have impressive resumes, right? So that's not, of course, the biggest deal from that standpoint. But I think what is most also important though is that you know a little bit more of my story, and some of your stories may look a little bit like this too. Just you know this ongoing trajectory, right, of things that have happened. And so started off my corporate career, right, and my background is supply chain management, and so that was a lot of what my focus was during that time. I got frustrated. And this is maybe many of you where you feel like you've hit a ceiling, you're not maximizing your potential, your creativity is being bottled up, and people aren't seeing you really for all that you can bring. And that's the frustration I felt during that time. And of course, when I first came into that company, my goal was to get to the corner office, right? I want to be on the top floor in the corner office, and things didn't progress like I expected. So that created frustration, but I also felt like there was a constriction there. And there was a capping really of what my talents were and even what my changing interests were, that I did not have an opportunity to express that in that particular company, in that industry. And so I launched out on my own and started my own company from that standpoint. And the goal was to build and grow and develop my own company. So that's what I had the opportunity to be able to do. Again, working actually in many ways across the utility industry, across the country, training, developing, and strengthening organizations in their supply chain process so they actually can be more inclusive as it relates to supply diversity. And as it relates to engaging and incorporating more small, diverse, minority-owned businesses into their supply chains. And so that was my focus, and things were going well. And then all of a sudden they weren't, right? Hit the wall in around 2010, 2011 with the Great Recession and the economic crash that happened at that time. And so that led to my business crashing over time. And ultimately, because I was holding on for dear life, right? I was my identity was so tied up in being an entrepreneur, and that I did not want this business to fail because I felt like I was the failure, right? That's a whole nother lesson for another day. I won't get into much of that. But ultimately, it led to us losing our house in foreclosure. And when I say us, at that time I was married. We had 3 children. And yes, we lost our house, and that put us on a whole nother path of homelessness, right? And I guess the technical term is mildly homeless. Fortunately, we were never on the street, thank God. But we were in hotels, we were in friends' basements, we were in their living rooms and couches. I mean, we were stuck in a really bad situation for a long time. I'm talking about 4 to 5 years. So it was a long period of time. It wasn't just a couple of weeks. It was a long period of time fighting to get back just to stability. And then eventually, when I had to kind of put my entrepreneurial dreams on pause, I was able to start to get some more part-time work from that standpoint. And so you'll see actually that picture down there on the left side. That was one of the part-time jobs I had. I had the privilege really to be a workforce development trainer for an organization that worked with adults with special needs and helping and assisting them to get into the workforce, right, from that standpoint. And so it was a powerful experience. And also, I believe I learned more from them than that. Maybe I even taught them from that standpoint. But it was great, but it was still challenging too, because we were still in an extended stay hotel at that time. It was a part-time job, so it was still very little money coming in, relatively speaking, based on what we need. So it was still a very challenging, very difficult situation. Well, eventually, that led to me ultimately being able to get back into full-time work as a business consultant. Then ultimately, in about a year and a half, I was promoted to the area director at Georgia State. Then that led to multiple promotions from the Russell Center to the Urban League. And then ultimately, I was able to actually then eventually engage in global business projects, which really had been on my heart since back. If I had to back that image up all the way back to my entrepreneurial and corporate career, which would have been around 2006. So for almost 20 years, I had a desire to do business globally. But as you see my journey, and I'm sure many of your journeys are probably similar, it did not go as planned, but ultimately ended up in a place. And if I look at that second picture there, that was an opportunity that we had with the group of entrepreneurs that we took from the Russell Center down to Cali, Colombia. But that picture, we were in a private briefing with two different ambassadors in that session, providing us insights on what was actually happening in Colombia from an economic development standpoint. And so to see where I was in 2017, to jump ahead to 2023, 2017 me did not imagine me 2023 me being in a position like that. But the principles I'm going to share with you tonight that are connected to Purposenomics, right, are principles that I had to live by. I had to experience. I had to hit my head on the wall. I had to fail at in many ways to get through that process to then ultimately, right, be able to be in global business settings and engaging business at a high level. But it didn't always look like that. And so many of you, again, maybe going through a frustrating time right now with your own career, with your own lives. And we're going to talk about now what the big problem is for many people and really in the workplace overall, right? 70% of professionals right now are feeling disengaged from their work. You may be part of that 70 where you're saying, I don't like what I do. I'm frustrated with what I do, or like what I was feeling earlier. Right. It's this sense of being constricted. My talents aren't being recognized. I'm not being valued where I am. There's some other things I may want to do that are different than what I'm doing right now. And I don't see a path to actually get there. So that's all right. A part of this process of being connected, engaged with Purposenomics. So also, many entrepreneurs are hustling without fulfillment. So it's interesting. So many entrepreneurs have left the workforce to start their own businesses, but many of them haven't started really a business. They've started a job. In the African American community, I believe the number is somewhere north of 95% of all African American owned businesses have exactly one employee, which means that they didn't start really a business. Many of them have just started a job. And the other statistic to kind of undergird that is, I believe the median income is somewhere between $40,000 to $50,000. Now, for most of these entrepreneurs, I guarantee you they were making more than that on the jobs that they left. For most, maybe not everybody, but for most. So to leave a job and then now to go to do something that's in many cases could be a lot more difficult and you're making a lot less money, I'm sure that wasn't the dream. That wasn't the aspiration, right, from that standpoint. And so many people have to really face the reality of, are you chasing a paycheck, again, whether you're an employee or an entrepreneur, or are you really pursuing your purpose? Because I believe that there's a gap if we're only chasing the money, that if purpose isn't a part of your pursuit, there's still going to be a bigger problem, right, than even the one that I've identified here. And so, and why does this matter? Why is this important? Because you may just say, okay, hey, no big deal, right? People are disgruntled, right? We've been dealing with it for this long. We'll probably just have to keep dealing with it. That is true, but I believe that there is a much bigger opportunity. Let's look at it like that. There's an opportunity, right, for if people were more engaged, if people were living their purpose, even and that being expressed through their work, if people weren't just pursuing money for money's sake, but there's a greater sense of meaning and connectedness to the work that they're doing, such that there's greater impact that they're having in their communities, right, in their country, potentially living even in the world. I think there's a greater benefit for all of us, right? And I believe also when this level of misalignment is happening, right, and this level of burnout is happening, level of frustration is happening, there's no way productivity could be high for any company, at least not for a long period of time. Maybe a short period of time where productivity may be high, but I'm sure there's going to be ebbs and flows. And for most companies, again, if you don't have engaged employees, that ebb is not going to be very high for very long, right? It's going to drop pretty low. And so if there's misalignment, right, that means you're missing on the opportunity for alignment, which would bring clarity, confidence, courage, and impact, some of the things that I had already mentioned. And so for many of you, right? Again, as you're on this journey, you may be struggling right now and may be wondering, man, is there any way to get out of the rut that I'm feeling that I'm in right now? I may be making good money, but I'm concerned that if I leave to go pursue my purpose, there's no money to be made on that side over there. And then for those who are in their purpose, they're maybe saying, well, maybe there's not a way to make money in doing that. But I believe there's a way to bring both of those things together. All right, which leads us to Purposenomics, right? And the full title of the book is Purposenomics: The Quest for Meaningful and Profitable Work. And in this book, I talk about the framework, right, that really connects purpose times profit equals prosperity, right? And we're going to break that down a little bit more because I believe, again, the potential, right, of your purpose being connected to profitability. And again, we're talking about profitability from an employee and an entrepreneur perspective, right? So we're talking about both, right? Leads to prosperity. But that prosperity is not just financial, but I believe we don't need to ignore financial. Financial is very important, right? But what we're also talking about, in addition to financial, is spiritual prosperity. That sense of meaningfulness, right? That sense of purpose, that sense of I'm doing what I was designed to do, what I was created to do, right? And it gives me another level of encouragement, another level of boldness, right? And another level of wholeness in that process, because it also connects to emotional and relational prosperity. Could you imagine if 90, 80%, 90%, even 70% of the people in the workforce felt whole when they went to work every day? They felt whole spiritually, they felt whole financially, they felt whole emotionally, right? They felt whole relationally. Imagine the differences in the workplace. A lot of times we look at people and we see their attitudes, right? We see how they behave, we see their lack of performance, and we just think some people they're just slacking off, right? And we come up with all these labels of what the issues are. But I guarantee you, for most of those people, they're not whole, right? Even if they're making a lot of money, are they whole financially? Right? Are they whole spiritually? Are they whole in all these other areas? Again, you can ask yourself the exact same question. Are you whole in all these areas? Or is there this deep sense of struggle, right? And or a deep sense of longing that there's got to be more than what I'm experiencing? And if we look at 3 John 1 and 2, yes, we're going to go to the word of God just a little bit tonight, right? Because it clearly says, right, and if we read it in context, beloved, I pray that you may prosper in all things and be in health. The rest of that says, and be in health, even as your soul prospers, right? And so that scripture speaks to multiple types of prosperity, which really goes back to, right, my previous point. And I pray that you would prosper and be in good health, even as your soul prospers. So as Paul is in that case is I'm sorry, John is speaking, and he's writing this letter, he's talking about a whole, right, and holistic type of prosperity in addition to spiritual in these other ways. And I believe with as much time as we spend at work, with as much time as our life is tied up in working, should be a greater sense of expectation we should have. And even if I pull in what Jesus said in John chapter 10, verse 10, I've come that you might have life and that more abundantly. Right. And I don't believe that abundant life was just meant to be lived on the other side of death in heaven, if you will. I believe there's a level of abundance that we can have here on the earth we have the potential to experience that. And now I'm going to share 4 insights that how do we get to that abundance? How do we get to that prosperity? How do we get to that level of holistic, right, prosperity that's available to us? So point number 1 is purpose is the anchor. Right. And I've really been kind of already building on this. So I don't want to, continue to beat this, but purpose is the anchor. You have to know what you were designed for. You have to know what you were created for, and then be intentional about pursuing that. Be intentional about working in that space, being intentional about working on yourself to discover it, and then maneuvering your life so that you can live most of your life on purpose. And again, if we are spending 60, 70% of our waking hours, right, in doing work related stuff, it frustrates our soul, it frustrates our mind, frustrates our body, and probably even frustrates God on a certain level if most of the time we're spent doing things that are not on purpose, that are just, again, in pursuit of money, right, or in pursuit of any other thing that is below, right, where we should be with our purpose. right? And even when I think about the contrast between purpose and passion, which I believe we need both, but to me, passion is kind of one of those things that can come and go, right? A passion, if it's not connected with perseverance, right? Passion then just becomes excitement. But I think true passion is connected to perseverance, but when it's not, then it can fade away, right? Where purpose is that sustaining thing that in the good and the bad, in the season of homelessness, right? Because one of the things I didn't say even about my season of homelessness is I was still investing in others. Even when I was struggling myself, I was still supporting others, coaching others, encouraging others. I was still posting content online, right? That was encouraging and uplifting. Most people didn't know my situation back then because, again, for one thing, let me just say this: I was ashamed of it, so I didn't want to talk about it. But two, as I was pouring so much still into others that, again, you would have never known my situation if you didn't know me personally, right? Because also I didn't want to just kind of talking about, because I was looking for sympathy in that case. I need more than sympathy, right? So that wasn't my goal to get sympathies. That's another reason I really didn't talk about it much from that standpoint. But again, and I just say all that to say, even in those seasons of struggle and challenge, you still have to be on purpose, because those are actually preparing you, right, for the season of opportunity that are going to come behind that, right? And so your purpose is also the alignment, right, with your connection with God. And I believe, again, God created work. That's the first thing, the assignment that he gave Adam to do in the Garden of Eden, right? So God created work. Work is honorable. And so if our passion is aligned with our purpose, is going to be connected to our calling, right? And that's another way to think about our purpose. What have you been called to do? What have you been designed and created by God to do? And so your reflection question, just for tonight, just for right now, and you can take this as homework, is, what problem did God anoint you to solve? What did he create you to solve? Right. And I believe if you're struggling trying to figure out your purpose, here's one way to at least move you down that path of discovery is, right, what is the problem you were called to solve for a group of people, right? And what burdens your heart, right? What frustrates you about things that you see that you believe you've been given the talent, skills, and abilities to actually have an impact on and actually change, right? So again, that kind of gets you down that path. Of course, the book will take you much further, but I won't go into that much right now. I'll share more on that later. All right, so let's go to key insight number 2 and keep this thing moving along. All right, so profit is a stewardship tool. Profit is a stewardship tool. And sometimes we shy away from money. But again, that's why this formula of prosperity, you need both. You need purpose and profit. But profit is a stewardship tool. And money then doesn't become the mission, it becomes the multiplier. It becomes the gas in the engine, right? It becomes the momentum that keeps things moving forward, that allows you to scale your purpose, that allows you to do your purpose in a bigger way, right? That we have to stop looking at money as the goal, right? And money, or as in money really becomes the means to the end, not the end in of itself, right? And so what also profit allows you to do, it enables your service, sustainability, and legacy, right? So it's the vehicle that allows your purpose to keep going, and again, it allows it to continue to build. And that sustainability piece is key, right? Because so many people will again get passionate about something, get excited about something, they run out really fast, and then they burn out, right? And then all of a sudden is like, okay, well, where's your energy at, right? Where's your motivation at, to do the thing that you say you were purpose to do? And in many cases, people ran out of money to actually do it, right? Their organization ran out of money, their business ran out of money, their household ran out of money. And I don't believe that's God's intent for any of us, especially, right, if he's given us a vision for something. I believe he also provides provision. Deuteronomy 8:18, for many people, it's familiar, says God gives us the power to create wealth in order to establish his covenant in the earth. So basically saying he gives us the power to create wealth, to produce wealth in order to execute our purpose, right? In order to execute and fulfill his calling and intentions for our lives in the earth, because that helps to establish his covenant. So it's this partnership that we have with God, and partnership between our purpose and profit that are actually working together. And again, I'm using profit in a broad way. Whether you're an employee or an entrepreneur, your household should be profitable, right? What does that mean? you're bringing in more than you're sending out, right? You're increasing your wealth, you're increasing your assets, right, in your household even. So you can be an employee and still be profitable, and you very well should be, right? And so as you're living out this purpose, you also should be a good steward to manage the finances and the resources, and not just assume that because I'm living my purpose, I have to be poor or I have to be destitute, right? Or I'm not allowed to talk about money, or I'm not allowed to make money. No, you should be talking about money. You should be talking about, right, making and managing money well, so that your purpose can be sustainable, right? So that you don't just run out of gas, run out of money, and then you just stop completely doing what you should be doing, right, from that standpoint. And there's a real key why that is critical. I'm gonna save that point for another moment, but I'm gonna come back to that because I think is critical, right, that you be profitable, right, connected to your purpose, right. And so, and then the third point is, we've been talking about this already. So again, prosperity is holistic. When you think about true prosperity, it integrates our faith, our work, and impact, right? What type of impact is your life going to have? And again, it's not just based on the bank account that you have, right? But it should be connected to the influence and impact that you can have, that hopefully would be greater, right? If there are more resources tied to you executing your purpose. Whose life are you going to change, right? What can they say about you, right? When you pass away from this earth, guess what? We're all going to do it. That one day we're all going to die, right? But what do you want them to be saying about you, right, at your funeral, right? What do you want written in your eulogy about the impact that you made on people's lives, right? That should be something, and that's not a morbid thought. That should be something we should be concerned about all the time. What is our legacy, right? That's really what I'm talking about here, and the impact that you want to make. So when you think about prosperity, the goal is not just to have a big bank account, right? But that prosperity is what type of healthy relationships also am I able to produce? Because if I'm also making an impact in my community, and whatever community God has called you to impact, whatever group of people God has called you to impact, there should also be a relationship there, right, with that community, and not just that you can write a check and send some money somewhere. And now again, if you don't want to go overseas and you want to send money, that's fine. I'm not saying don't do that. What I am saying is that it isn't just this cold financial transaction that I made an impact because I can write a check, right? No, but it is, what are you giving of yourself? What are you giving of your time, your talents, and your treasures in this process of engaging? And for many people, right, if you can incorporate that into your work, that's a beautiful thing. You can do that every single day and not just have to wait till the weekend, or wait to a volunteer project, right? Or wait till I just serve in the community at a specific time. But what if you could do that every day, all day, every single day, and have your life flow like that? That's what Purposenomics is about. How do you make all that meld together so that your impact is happening every day, all the time, and not just certain times, right? From that standpoint, and then you see that your whole life can flourish, right? Through your relationships, through your interactions, through your engagement, through your connections, right? Through how you interact, and connect and sow into others' lives as they're also sowing into your life. So you see, prosperity that we're talking about here is holistic, not just financial, right? It is spiritual, it is emotional, it is relational. And then last point I'll make on this, and why it's so important, is the world is waiting. The world is hurting. The world is struggling right now. You don't have to look around very much to see that, right? And the thing is, you don't have to kind of look out and look at all the headlines and look at everything that's happening, saying I got to change everything. No, you just focus on what you can change, right? What's the 3 feet in front of you? What are the 3 relationships or the 30 relationships that you can influence? What's the community that you live in right now, or the community that God has put on your heart to impact? That's where you can align your God-given purpose. That's where you can align your God-given work, right? Where you can plug into, again, either starting a business or a ministry, or the company that you work in right now, or the job that you aspire to actually do this work. All this work doesn't have to be entrepreneurial. In many cases, it will be, right? Because sometimes it can be a little challenging. trying to find your purpose within somebody else's organization, but it is possible, right? And I've been able to do that, right? And maybe not 100% of my purpose, but a large part of my purpose has definitely been connected, especially with the last 3 organizations that I worked with, right? Doing the things that God designed me to do as a coach, as a facilitator, as a leader, as an executive, right? With a heart for the community, I was able to do those things within, right, that work environment. But now that I'm running my own business, and I've done that in the past too, right, I get to do that in both. So again, you can do it in both spaces, employment and entrepreneurship, right? And then be able to shift from that burnout and frustration to clarity and joy, where you wake up on Monday morning saying, here's what I get to do, not here's what I have to do, right? Where when you start off work on Monday, you're not just trying to rush through the week to get to Friday, just to get to the weekend and then wash, rinse, repeat, do that all over again, right? So you're only excited about 2 days out of 7, right? That's not an abundant life, right? That's not a flourishing life. That's not a prosperous life, right? From that standpoint. So being able to make this shift, right, to living on purpose, having profitability, and in this prosperity, I can make that shift and get out of this burnout, right, and move to to clarity and joy, and then it allows me to unlock my potential, right, that connects purpose and profit for a life that thrives, and not just my life that's thriving. Now, every life that I impact, I can be an influence to say, if I've done this, you can do it too, right? If I've experienced this level of holistic prosperity, right, now you can pour that into others, and you can be a vessel that helps others also move into that path. And imagine, again, if just more people, again, it'd be great if we could say millions of people, let's just say more people, right, are living this prosperous life, this purposeful life, our world would be very, very different, right, from that standpoint. So hopefully, again, this is hitting home. Hopefully this is connecting with you. Hopefully, again, as you see this fulfillment formula, I believe it is realistic. I believe it's possible, right? Doesn't necessarily mean it's easy. I do not want to say that. This is not necessarily easy, but I believe it is worth pursuing. I believe it is worth putting the effort in, right? To look for the opportunities to develop our purpose, right? To have the stewardship to be profitable as an employer and entrepreneur that allows us to get to holistic prosperity financially, but also spiritually, emotionally, and relationally. So I want to share an opportunity with you at this point that you say, you know, I want to move in this direction. I want to engage in this way. I want to learn more about my purpose, first of all, right? But then as I learn more about my purpose, now how can I transition that or transfer that, right, into a workplace environment? And so now that gets me to my masterclass, the Purposenomics Live Masterclass that will be happening in October. Just want to walk through this and just kind of break this down. And so the 3 dates are October 9th, 16th, and the 23rd. We're going to be covering 3 key topics and going in depth, but also these are going to be working sessions, right? It's not going to be just me talking to you. These are going to be working sessions that are going to allow you to jump in, dig in, and engage in your own internal treasure hunt, if we could call it that. So week 1 is about discovering your purpose. So key areas that we're going to cover in that topic is understanding the purpose-profit connection. So we're going to build some foundational teachings around that. Identifying your core values and strengths, the Purposenomics framework and introduction, and overcoming the false dichotomy of purpose versus money. We're going to break down some myths and kind of help the level set from a mental perspective from that standpoint, right? And then the outcome of that, right, is a clear understanding of your unique purpose and how it can generate income. So that's our goal, right, is to move away from this financial frustration, right, and move starting on the path to get to profitability. All right, so then week number 2, we're talking about monetizing your mission, right? So we're going to cover the 4 core principles of Purposenomics. We're going to talk about creating value-based income streams, market research for purpose-driven ventures, and building your personal brand around purpose. So that's what we're going to focus on. And our outcome for that particular week is an actionable plan to monetize your purpose with specific revenue strategies. So again, these are working sessions, and we're going to want you to have practical tools that come out of this so that, again, you can not just have a good plan on paper, but actually there'll be a profitable plan in this process. And then week number 3, our focus is on sustainable transformation. So we'll be learning transition strategies from corporate to purpose, building financial security during change, creating systems for long-term success, and measuring impact and profit simultaneously. And our outcome, right, is ultimately create a roadmap for sustainable career transformation and security. And so these live sessions, again, will be very interactive. It's actually these are going to be intimate sessions, so we're definitely going to limit, right, how many people who are in these sessions. We want to make sure they're very interactive and engaging from that standpoint. But in addition to just the sessions, you're going to get a digital copy, of course, of the book Purposenomics. You can actually, I have a purpose assessment tool that's basically a purpose gap analysis to say, where's my purpose, where's the gaps, and now how to begin to close those gaps. You're going to get a workbook in this process, right? It's a 90-day implementation workbook. So again, the 3 sessions starts us down that path to really unpack those areas that I talked about. But now, again, you're going to be working on that plan during those 3 weeks, but it's going to continue in those 90 days. And again, the next thing is that private community access. So we'll be in a group, we'll be in a private group that will actually get to work on that implementation plan together. So you won't be left by yourself after that first week. You will have the opportunity to engage with myself as well as the other participants in this group. And again, just a powerful opportunity for you to be able to do that. And the beautiful thing about all of this is that you'll have a lifetime replay access to all the sessions. So even if you may miss a session, which I highly encourage you, do not miss a session, right? You want to make sure that you can actually go back and watch the replays. And even if you're in a session, and even if you're in the discussion and engagement in the private community, you'll actually still be able to go back and watch a session. So again, you can reinforce, right? And even if you want to watch it 60 days later, right, you can still reinforce what's being taught. So all that's being offered, again, it's almost a $1,500 value, and probably even more than that if I just look at just the time I'm investing, teaching, and then from a coaching standpoint afterwards. Again, a lot of value there. It's kind of hard to even quantify, but if I had to put a roundabout number on that, that's probably close to what that number would be. But I have a special opportunity for you, and for a very limited time. And actually, this is about 48 hours. So with a special discount code, I'm cut down that $14.97 all the way down to $197. Now that's an early bird price. Again, we got a couple of weeks to go before we get to October 9th, and this thing kicks off. But this is only limited for 48 hours. And so that will be midnight Saturday night, September 20th is when you will no longer be able to get this price. So I highly encourage you to jump on this, get it now, and go ahead and lock your space in. Also, because there's limited space, because again, we want to keep this as an intimate session. Go ahead and get in there now, because I guarantee you that this price would not last long, and it may not ever come back again. All right. So I'll just ask you the question now: why stay stuck? Why stay where you are? Right. Your work is more than a paycheck. Right. It's a calling, and I believe God has ordained all of us, not just for ministry, if you will, in that way, but ordained us to do work in the earth that has an impact. Right. That leaves a legacy, that produces wealth. Right. And produces financial value, not just for you, but the people that you engage with. And even think about it. It's a beautiful thing, right? If you can build a company, hire employees, and now you're blessing them with a paycheck, right? All these things are interconnected. And so we have to look at work differently. We have to look at work from God's perspective. And so we're going to be actually discussing a lot of that to make sure we have a strong foundation for work and employment and entrepreneurship from that vantage point, right? And the goal is that you're not just existing. You're not just existing Monday through Friday, just trying to make it through. Right. The goal is that you're thriving. You're excited about the week. You're excited about the weekend. You're excited about every day. And again, it's not this false excitement that, I have to, just rev myself up, or that nothing ever is going to go bad. But it's I have that sense of fulfillment because I'm doing what I've been created to do. And even with the challenges, right, the challenges are even making me better, right, within my purpose from that standpoint. And it really gets us down to write the vision and make it plain, that those who read it may run with it. right? The goal is as you work through this workbook and as you work through your process, that you have some accountability partners, that you have myself as a coach, that you have others who are pushing you forward, so that again, after you've written it, there are others that can run and help you execute that vision. Because the goal, you don't want to keep it on paper, right? The goal is you want to bring this vision to life so that literally it becomes a part of your reality. Right. So one thing I also want to make sure that you get tonight, even as you're maybe deciding what you want to do, at least go get your free copy of Purposenomics. I say a free preview copy is not the entire book, but at least it'll get you started. And again, if there's any other questions that you're wondering about, what is Purposenomics really about? What are some of the more of the details and the insights? I shared some of it, of course, on this webinar, but of course, the book goes much more in depth. And the masterclass will go even further in depth. But again, if you at least want to get a little bit more of a preview and insight, make sure you go to paulwilsonglobal.com/ebooks. And that way you can download your free copy of Purposenomics. And again, the preview copy, I should say, is not the full copy, it's the preview copy. But at least, again, you start to get some more insights that you can read, as well as, again, you can even go back and watch this webinar. So again, so I appreciate you, again, joining me for tonight. So last thing I'll say is let's transform together. Let's move forward together. Let's change the world together, right? Through purpose, profit, and prosperity, working together, right? So again, you can get that $197 early bird price. Use the discount code EB197. EB197, basically for early bird 197. It expires again 9/20 at midnight. And so you want to make sure you jump on that. Again, that is the QR code that you should use to go and register for that. Of course, if you go to paulwilsonglobal.com and click on courses, you will be able to get to this masterclass page also to begin to, like I said, make sure you put in that code to get the $197 price, because after Saturday, that price will not come back. And so look forward to engaging with you. I look forward to connecting with you. Please, you can reach out to me on social media. If you have, of course, any other questions, you can send me an email. Of course, if you go to my website, paulwilsonglobal.com, you'll be able to see where you can have direct contact from that standpoint. And again, so I look forward to supporting you, encouraging you, coaching you, working with you, helping you find your purpose and live like that. Live out the life and the career and the work, whether that be as an employer and entrepreneur, that God has called you for. So thank you for joining me for this time. I look forward to connecting with you on the next one. But also in the meantime, please connect with me on LinkedIn, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, and anywhere else that you can find me online. All right. Have a great one. God bless you. And I look forward to seeing you soon. Are you frustrated with your work? If you answered yes, you're not alone. Statistics tell us that more than 70% of people are frustrated with their work, and many of those are looking to change jobs. So if that's you, looking forward to doing the type of work, or you're financially frustrated, maybe you're good at what you do, but financially it is not providing what you need or what you're actually worth. And it's hard to find work that actually will do both. Fulfill you personally and from a purpose standpoint, but also support you financially at the level that you need to be supported and at the level really that you're worth. In Purposenomics, the quest for meaningful and profitable work, I unpack purpose-driven work, holistic growth, community and collaboration, and legacy principles. You don't have to be frustrated. So you don't have to be angry. You don't have to be upset about, yes, I love